So they've taken the halftime break, and the Shock have decided to come at this with a totally different idea. So instead of running the Sombra Reaper Moira Lucio dive compositions, or, you know, I say dive, it's like a fast-paced mobile rush comp. Most of the teams play it to blow up the front line, but against these kind of compositions, you can use it to dive onto Stitch or Aim God as well, depending on your positioning in the map. Anyway, the Shock have moved away from that, and they've picked Volskaya, and they've picked a composition that has a lot of long-range poke. So they can get their Zenyatta set up on an angle where they've got shit tons of damage from a long range. They're going to get Ants put up on an angle where he's got opportunities to hit heads from long range. They've got their Tracer able to harass Stitch and Arc in the backlines, and harass Aim God if they need to as well. They've got a lot of poke happening here, and they've got high ground to play on. And so for Washington, they are playing a very static, low ground composition that has less poke than the San Francisco Shock. And so what I wanted you guys to think about this in terms of is think about it in terms of tempo. The Shock were previously playing a Moira Lucio composition that needs to play fast. You get in, you fuck them up, and you get out again. Or you win the team fight. If the fight goes long, that Moira Lucio composition loses. It just doesn't have the sustain to be able to last over a long period of time. You're going to lose to the damage coming out from Decay. He's going to just out-damage you. You've got Bionades that are going to come out. There's more chance for you to get hooked, more chance for you to get headshot from Stitch. You're going to lose over a longer team fight. But this composition from the Shock is much better in longer team fights. It's not very good at finishing out fights quickly. You can't dive with it, really, unless Striker and Smurf are making very specific dives onto, like, Aim God when he's out of position. But the whole team isn't executing a dive. Instead, you're spamming people from a distance, and you're trying to really, like, soften up the Washington Justice and use your high ground advantage to get picks in the team fight over time. So Shock change up their idea of what they want to run very significantly. And I think the Volskaya pick is also a very good map pick, because the Justice's comp just looks really poor here. The Justice have to make long rotations around the map. Like, the Justice need to take high ground, because you can't let Ants and Violet... I mean, Violet's actually playing on the low ground around here, but he could be playing on the high ground if he wanted to. But anyway, you can't allow the Shock control of the high grounds. So they were looking to rotate up here, and then maybe they'd take health pack room, something like that. I think later on they rotate around the right-hand side and try and get up onto the high ground over here as well. These long rotations, you have no shield, you have no defense matrix, you are probably going to lose somebody at some point making these long rotations, because the Shock benefit from these longer team comps. So I think this is a beautiful adaptation from the San Francisco Shock, and it's something that they do as well on Gibraltar. Very well on Gibraltar. It's also something that New York were doing very well on Gibraltar when they played against San Francisco, when they played against Shanghai. Not that Shanghai were playing Zarya Hog, but still. So you can see that they've actually gone on this long rotation. The Washington Justice have pushed all of their players up top, down below here as well. Aim God has gone with them, and they're just trying to move as an entire unit apart from Stitch and Arc. So 4 players have gone on this large, long rotation. They're one up in the team fight, but the Shock aren't taking the team fight. They're just waiting. Just waiting. And when the Justice try and play the point, they are going to rain damage down on them from above. And as long as they avoid getting hooked or headshot from Stitch, they're in a great position. Striker comes back off the respawn and kills Tuba. If you play the Moira Lucio dive, you have to play fast. You are incentivized to pick your opportunities and go. But when you play this comp, suddenly you're not worried about the Justice anymore. You don't have to play fast and aggressive into them, because now you are the ones making the threat. Now the Justice are the ones that look scared because they don't have a shield. These tanks on the point are just taking shit tons of damage trying to play the trying to get that first tick. And Smurf and Choyobin, their job's just to rotate on and off the point to make sure that Decay and Janu can't get a free pick. The pick on Violet is huge. I don't know what the fuck this is, by the way. How does... Look at Moth here. And he just beefs the res. Literally just beefs the res on Violet. When I saw that, by the way, when they're 2-0 down and Moth fails the res on Violet, I'm like, oh, they're done. They're done. They're fucking done. They are absolutely out of here. Didn't he get booped by the Zarya? I don't think so. I think he just fell. Look, he's already planning to res off the side. I mean, the Zarya shot comes in, but I don't think it knocks Moth off the side. I think Moth was already off the side. Look, right now, Moth goes for the res, and he's not stood on anything. And then he just falls after getting tagged slightly by the Zarya shot. Like, aye, aye, aye. He's trying to not be in Stitch's sightline and where he can get hooked and shot by the Zarya. But I don't know, man. Looks like a boop to me. It could have been a boop. But even so, I mean, you gotta get those. Thoughts on the Tracer Ashe versus the Sombra Ashe picks? I think in the mirror, the Tracer is really good, but the Sombra is good on assault maps because it gives you a big ultimate to be able to close things out. But the Tracer is better in the neutral fights. Also, this isn't a mirror, but if it was a mirror, the Tracer is better. They were mirroring it on King's Row, which is where people were asking me the same question, which is why I bring it up now. So now you see that the San Francisco Shock have set up Violet and Ants on the high ground, and they're also playing aggressive with Striker and Smurf, so that they are going for dives on Stitch when he tries to come in through the choke point, and they're staying solid in the backline with their Widowmaker and their Zen and their Mercy. And because the Washington Justice's comp can't contest high grounds, there isn't really that much they can do about it. This comp is just not good on Volskaya. If the Washington Justice were more flexible, they would swap their comp here, I think. But they're not. They can't play another comp at a top level. They did such a good job of not letting Stitch play the game. Yeah, they did. They did here, anyway. On a long map with sightlines like this one, Winston Zarya can wait and contest. On Numbani is flanking to hard dive heals from behind when Oppo tanks move into smarter. Man alive. If you guys want to ask me questions in the chat, please format it with good English. Because I can't understand the question. Winston Zarya can wait and contest. Do you mean on attack or defense? I don't know what you mean. On Numbani is flanking to hard dive heals from behind when Oppo tanks move into smarter. I know it's a second language. I'm sorry, Welsh. I just really can't understand you. Like, it's... I don't know what you're going for. I mean, no one's playing Winston Zarya, so I don't know whether you mean defensive Winston Zarya or attacking Winston Zarya. And I don't understand the concept of which team would be flanking to hard dive the heals. I'm not making fun of their English. I'm just saying I can't understand it. I'm asking for further clarification. Aaron Place and Edmay, thank you very much for these subs. Opposition tanks move into space, like center. I guess you mean like on Numbani, where the attacking team is going down main, and you, as the defensive team, dive their backline once the attacking tanks have already moved forwards, right? That's really smart. That's what Philadelphia did really well against, I think it was the Gladiators. I checked the replay view, and Moth did get booped out of the res. Okay, pretty good. At the same time, though, why aren't they pressuring the Zarya? Why isn't Choyobin eating that shit? Why aren't they trying to body block for the res? How do they allow one Zarya shot to ruin the entire Resurrect? It's not Moth's fault? No, it's not Moth's fault. It's his team's fault for not covering it. It's just a god tier Zarya shot. I mean, it's a bit of a fortunate Zarya shot, I suppose, but I think you have to make sure that you get that res off. If Violet's died, he's your player on the high ground that's outputting so much damage. What was I saying? Oh yeah, as for the Winston Zarya, I'm afraid I don't know whether you mean aggressive or defensive, so I can't really answer the question. Okay, so now Washington are trying to take high ground on the left. They're getting in for free by utilizing these floating pillars. How good do I think the Hunters could be if they go Gushui? I don't think Gushui would join the Hunters, but I think that would make a huge difference to that team for sure. I think they should also make other changes if they were going to do that, though. I love how aggressive Striker and Smurf are playing here, though. Again, it's a pretty similar situation to, like, Oasis Garden, where Justice are... when Justice's backline is committing through the choke point, the San Francisco Shock are diving onto them. But this time, they still have that solid backline to be able to hold the point area as well on the high ground. Volskaya is just so good to counter the Justice's comp, because they have no high ground control. Yeah, the grab from Decay here is a little questionable. But he's got 55% charge, and I think it's reasonable for him to think that he's grabbed them too far up so that Violet couldn't get into the trance. Couldn't get into the grab, rather, with his trance. It is ambitious, but I don't think it's a terrible idea from Decay. It's literally ambitious. Again, Striker and Smurf doing such a good job of pressuring this backline. For the Justice here, though, on attack, they need to try to peel for their backline more. The problem is that if you peel for your backline every time Striker and Smurf dive, Striker and Smurf are just going to fake dive into your backline and stop you from taking any space with your tanks. You know, like if Decay and Janu turn around every single time Striker and Smurf engage. So, oh, this is cool actually as well. I don't think the casters talked about it here, but look at that body blocking. The bubble and the body block to escort their Ana into a safe position so that Ants couldn't hit the headshot. That's so cool. They did? I think it happened later on. Look, it happens later on there, and I think George says it there. Yeah, but they do it twice on the approach. Really good, like, principled play from the Washington Justice. And then AimGod just runs into a sightline. While Ants has sights available. But AimGod kind of has to, because, I mean, he can't. There's 10 seconds left and he needs to heal his team. But anyway, this, in my opinion, is a very good refutation of the Washington Justice's composition on Volskaya. In fact, I would go so far as to say that any team that watches this game tape, not any team, but any top team that watches this game tape, should now immediately know how to beat the Justice on Volskaya. Because the Justice can review this game tape and try and change a few things, but just fundamentally, their composition isn't very good on Volskaya. They can't take high ground easily. Something they could do is do the Shanghai Dragons push, where they come all the way around. Wait, let me get a better sightline for this. I don't have a very good sightline for it. Wait a second. Yeah, here, actually. What they could try and do is push the Zarya and the Hog up these stairs and all the way through the back out here to get all of the people off the high ground, but they would have to body block people when they cross over the top, take the elevator over, or to take the moving platforms in, body block as they move the Ana across the choke. Then they have to move all the way around the right-hand side. All of this without getting any picks taken. And the defending team will just rotate around and then drop back as well. So that, I think, is the only meaningful adaptation that the Washington Justice can make, because I don't believe they're capable of making big compositional changes. But any other team can review this footage, and I think it's just a guaranteed win on assault maps. If you get to pick Volskaya, you should win this map every time against the Justice. Yeah, it would really take a million years to rotate. I think any top team that looks at this footage should just have a blueprint of how to beat the Justice on assault. Unless Justice get to pick the assault map, in which case they'll probably pick Anubis, if I had to guess. We haven't actually seen Hanamura get played once in the playoffs, as far as I can tell. Has Hanamura been played once at all by any team in APAC or NA? I don't think it has. I can't remember seeing it. Which is very weird. Like, maybe Hogzaria would be viable on... Maybe the Justice would pick Hanamura, but I don't think they would find it very easy at all to be able to get through that first choke point on point A. Their backline would get destroyed trying to come in through there. And I mean, I don't see how the Washington Justice would win on that map. So, no, I'm not talking about the Shock. I'm talking about other teams playing against the Justice. So, for example, if you're the Washington Justice and you win the hybrid map, every team is going to pick Volskaya against you, in my opinion, because the Hogzaria comp just isn't that good there. It's pretty good on defense, but it's horrible on attack. But if the Justice lose the hybrid map, then they get to pick the assault map. And I'm trying to think in my head which assault map the Justice would pick. I think they would pick Anubis, because Anubis is actually pretty good for Hogzaria. It's not great, but it's pretty good. I don't think any of the assault maps are great, but you can do a pretty nice defense on Anubis, and the attacks aren't too bad because you can just try and take a lot of space. Difficult to get your backline in position sometimes, but you have chances to win, I think. Possibly Paris or even Horizon Lunar Colony. They can't play on those. They've been taken out of the rotation. They're out of the ranked rotation and out of the Owl rotation. Look at this. Like, the Hogzaria comp is just losing high ground. What do you do? Exactly. What can you do? The Washington Justice can't do anything. Their rotations are so slow. They kill Smurf, and to be fair, Stitch does get a nice kill onto Moth. And the nano boost onto Decay, but the San Francisco Shock just kill everybody else here. I can't remember whether Decay clutches this, but I think they just kill everyone else. They just zone out the healers, kill them, just raining damage from above, prioritizing positioning above all else, and win a slow fight. Just spamming them to death. That's really good from the Shock. A very, very good mid-round, mid-series adaptation. Maybe Decay needs to go Diva? Yeah, I mean, in theory, that's a good adaptation, but is Decay ever gonna go Diva? No fucking way. If Decay goes Diva, or Raw plays any of their maps, they are just donating maps to the other team, in my opinion. Come on. Decay's a god gamer, but he ain't whipping out the Diva in these matches. Or Winston, or any of this shit. Like, the Valiant would fucking love it if Raw played, or Decay played Winston, or Decay played Diva. They'd love it. They'd be laughing their way to the bank. You guys have Decay to play Zarya, and you played Raw against us. They'd be fucking chuckling their way to the bank. Anyway, Shock, great adaptation on Volskaya. Really smartly played.